artificial intelligence robots build a better PowerPoint presentation than you? I'm a forever skeptic. And after decades of creating presentations in the corporate world, I've been doubtful that any computer chat AI robot could do better than me, no matter how much hype Chat-GPT or Microsoft's magical Copilot gets in the press. But I've been schooled. There's a role for these new tools to help make you a better presentation creator while also speeding up the process, giving you more time for things like practicing to give your presentation. If you tried OpenAI's Chat-GPT or Microsoft's Bing Chat, you may have found them a bit too cutesy, or an idiot savant, or just plain outright wrong. But I've learned that these tools with the proper guide rails can be one more improvement in your presentation process to make you look better. Chat-GPT can be like a coworker looking over your shoulder and giving you ideas or new lines of thought that you may have never considered. But beware. You need to pay close attention and ultimately make the better decisions. Hi, this is Les from Power Up Training, and we're going to put Chat-GPT to the test by co-editing an existing substandard presentation. Along the way, you can be the judge if you want to use AI tools with my specific PowerPoint tricks on how to create effective prompts in Chat-GPT. I'll be working with an amateur slide deck that I've used in other tutorials on how to fix a bad presentation. This specific set of slides has 1. Unorganized structure, poor word choices, unprofessional tone, and too many words. Let's see if Chat-GPT can help fix these issues. I'm using version 4 of Chat-GPT, but the concepts will work with other AI natural language processing tools. And if you need to know more about the implications of AI robot tools, check out my introductory video with some strong words of warning and predictions for AI and PowerPoint. But let's get to fixing this presentation and the content for our presentation. To use Chat-GPT, you need to enroll OpenAI's website, create an account, and once there, it's a simple interface of entering in your interactions here and clicking the Go button here or using the Enter key. The response will pop up at the top of the workspace. I'm going to scroll up to view the responses. The keys are how to ask the question and how to employ the responses. Let's move me out of the frame to better watch what's going on. I type in a specific prompt to make a presentation about getting approval for an office remodel project, and Chat-GPT came back with a clear outline of what should be covered in each slide. Compare this to the sloppy structure of our existing presentation. At a high level, I'm impressed with this structure. An introduction of the current office space with challenges, moving into the benefits of the remodel, and then the cost, followed by a timeline, risk, and finally the conclusion. This is outstanding. Except, I made a bunch of stuff up about energy efficiencies and cost savings or employee satisfaction. I did not give Chat-GPT any of those items. GPT has a nasty habit of winging it, and you must be on guard. So my first word of warning, do not copy and paste without editing. Chat-GPT will hallucinate and make things up. Well, these are interesting ideas. This is way too long, so let me request, can you make this shorter? And the results are not what I expected. To Chat-GPT, shorter translated into fewer words, and it still gave me 8 slides. While I like this less wordy version, I need for my prompts to be more crystal clear. So here's my next prompt. Shorten this to 6 slides.
This precise request condensed the contents from 8 to 6 slides, which looks pretty good. Let's copy this over to PowerPoint. In fact, I'm going to keep the existing presentation for us to compare with and start a brand new slide deck. While I could copy each slide over, I'm going to switch to PowerPoint outline mode and drop in the Chat-GPT outline. I'll have to do some fancy PowerPoint editing to convert from one long set of text into individual slides while breaking them up into new paragraphs and then using the Tab key to indent the contents for each slide. If you need help about managing outlines, check out this tutorial all about PowerPoint outlines. With the GPT outline now set up in PowerPoint, I'm going to switch the view to Slide Sorter for us to see the big picture. Looking closely, we have the foundation of a solid presentation, although I'm going to quibble about some of the categories. Furthermore, each slide only has some suggestions for the underlying bullet point content, which I will address in a moment. But the key takeaway is that Chat-GPT can help jumpstart your early blue sky imagination of a presentation by creating a set of slides to consider. Okay, let's move on to stage 2, editing specific slides. I will convert the slide about the purpose of the project to the presentation's objective, as this is a better way to prepare our audience on what's going to be covered in our slide deck. Now, back to the AI assistant. Here's my specific prompt to create a single slide about our project to start a $1 million office remodel project that includes the following bullet points. Note how precise my words are. And now, to grab our original talking points to feed to the Chat-GPT with a copy and paste from the original bad presentation. This is where GPT shines. It took our sloppy language that's way too casual and turned it into consistent bullet points, infinitely more professional. And this time, with no hallucinations. By providing specific talking points, it just stuck to the ideas that we gave it, but by doing a grand job of shining them up. While I could have done better with the objectives to include a broad description of the current office failings, let's just copy the updated text and switch back to PowerPoint to drop in the improved bullet points in our new slide deck. Next slide will present the case of what is wrong with the current office. Here's my starting prompt. Make a new slide about what is wrong with our current office using these bullet points. Note that I do a Shift-Enter so as not to get the GPT response going until I go back to our original presentation, copy the bullet points of the issues, and drop them back into the GPT prompt. And like before, it does a grand job of cleaning up the language. A perfect example is getting rid of "it smells" to a much more appropriate, unpleasant odor. Once again, I would probably go back to tighten up the language, but it is infinitely better now. One problem, which is not GPT's fault, is that the list is too long for a single slide. This is a PowerPoint technique to make it more manageable on a screen for our audience. But let me show you a GPT prompt trick. Since this is an interactive tool, I'll just type in, "Group these into categories," and it will operate on the previous response. And wow, this is a pretty clever analysis and an intelligent grouping. We might do better, but this should light up our imagination of a better way to present the data. Let me copy this over to our presentation. When I drop it into the slide, it's still cumbersome, even with the bullet point indentation. So a clever trick is to turn the layout from one content to two contents and copy half of the bullets to the right side with some additional formatting. Look at the original slide and now this one. The editing of the language and the reorganization that ChatGPT provided to us shows us that it was worth it just for this single slide to use this outside tool. At this point, you should be getting the idea how this AI Copilot adds some value to an existing slide deck. But let me show you a few more examples of constructing effective prompts with some additional tricks of the trade to get ChatGPT to do even more amazing work. Let's try out the budget slide. Here in my prompt, create a new slide based on this project budget. Let me go back to my original presentation, grab the bullet point data, and return to GPT to drop in the numbers. And the results turn out to be less than exciting, with some basic text enhancements and numbering. But watch when I repeat the same command of group them into categories. And again, this nice reorganization of the data will be more digestible in a single slide. But let's go back to a task where GPT will provide some expanded and some amazing enhancements with this prompt. Create a new slide describing the project team and roles based on, and here I'm going to pull in some simple data of person and departments, no other data points, and drop them in. And look at how GPT did hallucinate again some new data that I did not give it. But wow, it's pretty good in that it's explaining the role of each person. Of course, I must go back and make sure that these are the accurate descriptions of tasks. But it was a brilliant suggestion to include this in our slide data. ChatGPT is an excellent co-pilot collaborator, telling you to consider some different perspectives. You're still the driver, but you can take these ideas, expand upon them, and make your slides even better. So let's go even further and ask for the data to be reformatted into a table. And here, it does a fine job. But aesthetically, it could be made prettier. And a simple copy and paste does not help, no matter what paste format I use in PowerPoint. So let me just drop it in as a picture for future handcrafted formatting based on the ideas from GPT. Now, onto the variation where we get a table that works and then much more. Here's my prompt. Create a project timeline slide based on this schedule, and then I drop my original slide data into the request. GPT may have made some black box decision that I seem to like tables, and it automatically formatted the results into a table, but it kept the same sloppy language. Did I really just use the single project task of party with an exclamation point that I'd be showing to my boss? ChatGPT, help me. Make it more professional. And party turns into official opening and celebration. And tons of other improved wording, such as construction phase 1 and phase 2 instead of my lazy construction and more construction. Once again, just this one use of GPT immensely improves upon the original slide deck with just this one slide and the command, make it more professional. This is subtle, but note how GPT kept the table as a single element. Now it will easily copy from the web browser over to PowerPoint and instantly drop in a formatted table that is easier to work with inside of PowerPoint with me adjusting some of the column width. Otherwise, it's pretty easy. Paste and done. Okay, let's fix the last slide as our conclusion. My prompt includes a very specific command about the nature of the slide with make a conclusion slide based on these bullet points. I get a solid response. GPT is now working with my earlier request to make it more professional with improved phrasing. Note the pro use of starting each bullet point with a verb, unlike the source mixed style. But for a PowerPoint presentation, I do find this a bit wordy for a single slide. You might want to capture these ideas for your full thoughts when giving your speaking portion, but I'm going to tell GPT to do it again, but now use fewer words. This new concise list is much better for a slide presentation.
As I copy the GPT slide bullet points over to my new PowerPoint presentation, I'm much farther along in creating a more effective slide deck. And here is what I still need to do without the help of our AI robot. 1. I need to do some general page cleanup, slide by slide. I need to review the text content, tweaking the titles and bullet points by adding clarity and some extra punch. And later, adding in all the needed graphical elements and colors and charts. If you need help on creating effective slides, watch my Imagine Awesome Content for your PowerPoint, where you will use your human brain and skills to sharpen the content, and then move on to Improve My PowerPoint, a slide deck makeover for adding the visual styles and pizzazz. Chat-GPT can be a tremendous aid in the early stages of the creation process. It will become a more powerful tool over time, and you need to get on board now by leveraging the tool to make you look smarter. If you want to see some specific tips like creating more effective slide titles with ChatGPT, or jumpstarting a presentation from scratch with AI outlines, or just better understanding of the state of the tools, subscribe to my channel and look for more tutorials from Power Up Training. Now, with your new modern robot assistant, go power up.